Hi there, this is Tom Ingram, and in this video, we're going to take a closer look at Mixtral 8x7 Bravo as well as Mistral Medium, the brand new LLM that's supposed to be the rival to ChatGPT 4.0. Now, I've been playing with both models for the past couple of days, and I am really impressed with their performance. They really are, I believe, the equivalents to ChatGPT 3.5 and 4.0. And so what I did was I put them through a couple of tests that we're going to take a look at now. But besides the performance, one of the other amazing things about the Mistral models is that they are significantly cheaper than OpenAI. Right now, there's kind of like a race to the bottom, and so that really benefits researchers and developers and people who want to build things. And so Mistral is a great model, whether you get the 8x7 Bravo or whether you get the Mistral Medium. So in the last video, what we did was we compared Mixtral 8x7 Bravo, the open weight model, the open source open weight model, to ChatGPT 3.5. And at the end of that video, we actually did some retrieval to see how well it could do with documents that we had, but we didn't really do a full retrieval, and so in this video, we're going to take a look at that. And so if you want to test this, you can, of course, go to Mistral's website. And with Flowise, they just added the ability to use Mistral's models, including their embedding models. And so for this particular test, what we're going to do is we're going to look at Mixtral 8x7 Bravo. And what we did was we took a guide on visual effects for filmmakers. And so we wanted to basically chat with this particular document and see what both models could do for us. And so this is the guide for visual effects, 3D visual effects. And so first, let's take a look at the Mixtral 8x7 Bravo. And so as you can see, we are not using Mistral's API. We're actually using OpenRouter AI. We're using their API. What we're going to do is these are the questions that I had. These are the questions that I asked both models, and we just want to see and compare basically how well they respond. So this is basic text generation, basic retrieval. So they should both do a fairly good job. Now they do take a while to generate the responses, so we're just going to show you what the responses were. And so you can do all of this within Flowise, whether you are using the Mistral API or you're using other APIs, such as the Chat OpenAI custom module within Flowise. You can test these and see how well they work. So let's go ahead and see what the output was for our first test with Mixtral 8x7 Bravo. And so the first question was, we wanted to create a YouTube video that teaches people the basics of creating visual effects for film, right? And in this case, we wanted to create a video script, a YouTube video script that teaches someone how they can get started creating visual effects for film. And so what the Mixtral 8x7 Bravo model did was it gave us a very short YouTube script. I would have preferred something longer. But as you can see, it's pretty creative. This was set to a temperature of 0.5. And from what it looks pretty good. It looks like a pretty good, very short though. It looks like a pretty good video script. And so then if we go to Mistral Medium, right? This is the ChatGPT 4.0 equivalent. This is the module within Flowise. So if you go here and you go to the chat models, you will find the Mistral, the Mistral chat, and you will also find the Mistral embeddings as well. And so from what I found, the Mistral chat is amazing. The Mistral embeddings, it's kind of hit or miss for me. It might be due to my installation or something, but I found that for small documents, the Mistral embeddings did pretty well, but it kind of started to struggle with larger documents. So for me, what I would recommend is, at least for now, because I'm sure it'll change, you can always use the Hugging Face embeddings. That's actually what I did for this particular test. I used the Hugging Face embeddings. or you can use the OpenAI embeddings. They both do a good job. However, the OpenAI embeddings actually take less time. So, you can just take that into account. So anyway, this is the output for our first question. All right, we wanted the AI to create a video script for us. And so you can see that this particular model actually, it gave us a little bit more detail, and it was just a little bit different. So, I would have to, if I really wanted to see what exactly the difference was, I would have to kind of, take this prompt and run it through both models multiple times. But in reality, the Mixtral 8x7 Bravo and the Mistral Medium are really the same model, essentially. It's just that the Medium model has more parameters. So it can actually do a few more tasks, or a lot more tasks, much better, but they are essentially the same model. So you should get very, very similar outputs. Okay. Now, the second question that I had was, what are the essential elements of composition for VFX? And so if we go back to the Mixtral model, the Mixtral 8x7 Bravo, they basically give us a list, and it's 10 elements that are found in the book. These are all directly from the book, and one of the ways that we know, which is what one of the reasons why I love Flowise, is that actually you can ask it to give you references. So these are the sections where it comes up with the answers that it's going to give you in the end at the final answer. And so that's a great way to check to see whether it's actually referencing your document versus whether it's just using the general knowledge base that comes with the model. So it does a fairly good job. And so now let's go to Mistral Medium and see how well it does. So this was the script, and then what are the essential elements? And in this case, I would call this a bit of a miss for Mistral Medium, because whereas the Mixtral model gave us a lot of good detail, the Mistral model, the Medium model, really just kind of said the context doesn't provide explicit mention for the fundamental components. And so, both of these models had the same temperature. So I actually tried it again, and it kind of gave me the same answer. So sometimes you're not always going to get the answers that you want, even when you're using the better models. So just keep that in mind. So the last question I had, I wanted to know was, please describe the VFX pipeline or workflow in a production, in a film production. So what are the steps they use to create their VFX, their visual effects? And so we're just going to go and check out the one from the Medium model. And so it gives us a rather short answer, but it looks pretty good. And again, it gives us the references from the content from the document, which is good as well. Okay. And so now let's go to the 8x7 Bravo, the small model. And so we asked the same question, and it actually gave us a little bit more of a longer answer, which is interesting. And so again, sometimes, this comes down to essentially, what weights they're using, because every time you ask a question, you will get a different answer. So sometimes you get better answers, and sometimes you'll get worse answers. But, what I would do if I was actually doing a real retrieval generation is I would really focus obviously on what I'm looking for. And, the less that you ask for, the more focused your prompt, sometimes you get better answers. So then you just combine your prompts together. But it did a pretty good job for 3 tests, And so again, for retrieval, I think both models do a very, very good job. Now, let's take a look at one of the problems that we had one of the challenges that we had in the last video. And for that video, we tested our Mixtral models against ChatGPT 3.5 for our orbital rifle problem. And for this test, I really wanted to test the model's math ability and its reasoning ability. This is a fairly complicated question and requires some calculus, and so it really kind of puts the model to its test. And so the orbital rifle problem basically is one where it's a simulation where I'm on the moon, It's a math problem where I'm on the moon and I have a basketball that's 1,000 meters ahead of above me, and I have a Remington rifle, and I want to find the angle that is necessary to actually shoot the rifle and hit the basketball as it's orbiting the moon, right? And so again, as I said in the last video, I don't know what I don't know what the actual answer is, so I can't technically check the Mistral models right now. But I wanted to see what their reasoning was, and so from the last video, we tested this, and we didn't really get very good answers either from the Mixtral 8x7 Bravo or from ChatGPT 3.5. But now we're going to test the Mistral Medium model. This is supposed to be the bigger brother of the Mistral Small, and we're going to see how well it does. But before we do that, we're going to see what ChatGPT 4.0 how it performed against this particular problem. So let's go ahead and let us go to that particular one. Okay, so we are using ChatGPT 4.0, okay, and this is a very simple setup. And so now let's go ahead and check out the answer that it gave us, right? So basically what it did was both models uses a lot of math. And so I'm going to spare you the entire explanation here, but ChatGPT 4.0 tells us about the gravitational constant of the moon and the basketball's orbital time period. And again, it does lots of math because it loves to do lots of math. And then it tries to sort of walk us through, how it's calculating everything out. And again, if you have the time to do this, please let me know what the proper answer is. I will have to do this at a later time. But finally, it's going to, calculate the value of the angle or the value of theta that we need to shoot our rifle in order to hit the very fast basketball. And so the final answer after all of the math, okay, is, let's see here. The final answer, theta, is basically 90 degrees or straight up, which is, we know is wrong. Of all the things we know, that is wrong, because if the basketball is directly overhead, the moment you fire your rifle, you're going to miss the basketball because it's already traveling. It's already going to be out of position. So we know that answer is wrong. Now let's check Mistral Medium and see how well it does. All right. So we have the Mistral Medium, right? This is the Mistral Medium. And let's check out what the answer was. And right away, one of the things that I like about this particular answer is that at least the reasoning was clearer than ChatGPT 4.0. And so that was one of the things I did like. And so when you look at it, it says, after, this is the question, to calculate the angle at which you should fire your rifle in order to hit the basketball, you need to use the principles of physics, specifically the laws of motion and the concept of projectile motion, right? And so it says first, let's consider the motion of the basketball. It's orbiting the moon at a speed of 1,600 meters per second at a height of 1,000 meters. Okay, so that's good. Then it gives us the acceleration of the basketball. Then it considers the motion of the bullet, which is very good. And it also looks at the energy of the bullet as it's leaving the rifle and throughout its flight, which is a good thing. And then what I really like about it is that it actually even attempts to calculate the vertical and the horizontal position of the bullet over time, which is a good approach, actually. And so, like I said, again, without having actually checking the math, we just want to see how well it reasons. And so then it also is going to calculate a theta or an angle that we can use to fire our rifle. And so if we skip all the way down to the end, because there is a lot of math, the final answer for theta, or the angle that we need to fire, is 75.96 degrees. And so, again, I don't know if this is right, but it sounds reasonable. At least it sounds reasonable. We would have to do some sort of other simulation later on to see if it's actually correct. But I love this answer, and the Mixtral 8x7 Bravo did not give us this type of reasoning. Okay, but again, we can, you can always test both again. But so, I think it did a very good job, even if I don't know what the answer is, because at least the answer sounded reasonable and the math sounded reasonable. So, you have to give it points for that. Okay, so for the last question, I wanted Mistral to recommend a list of video game titles based on multiple criteria. So in this case, I had $100 to spend, and I only wanted to buy games that cost more than $20 and had a rating of 80% or more. Okay, and so the first thing that I did was I tested it inside of ChatGPT 4.0, and this was the answer that I got. Here's a list of games that meet your criteria and come close to a total of $100. So we have Legend of Zelda, we have Super Mario Odyssey, and then we have Among Us. And the total was conveniently $100. All right, and so this looks a little suspicious, but first let's go ahead and check out what Mistral Medium had to say for its recommendations. So we're going to go all the way up, and so the same question, and then it says, sure, here's a list of video games that meet your criteria and come close to $100, because I did ask it to, try to come close to $100. So we have The Legend of Zelda, we have Red Dead Redemption, we have Celeste, and we have Hollow Knight for a total of $134.96. And it looks great. The only problem is that these titles, or at least 3 of these titles, don't actually come up or exist on our list. And so in both cases, both Mistral Medium and GPT-4 hallucinated. They made up the entire thing. The good news is that it knows how to answer the question, so it can follow your instructions, but we actually want it to use the data that we have. All right, so what I did then was I started to ask it a couple more questions, and even this answer, right, where it says, here's some more options, this is great, but there's at least 3 of these that don't actually exist on our list at all. And so this is our list again. And so these don't actually show up anywhere on our list. So what I did then was, if you go back to GPT-4, right, I basically tried it again, and it really couldn't find anything. All right, and so it's kind of weird because sometimes it will work and sometimes it won't work. So let's go ahead and go back to Mistral Medium. And then I asked it again as well, and this time what was interesting was it said, unfortunately none of the games listed in the provided context meet both of your criteria, costing more than $20 and having a ratio or a rating of 80%. Therefore, it is not possible to create a shopping list that meets your criteria. But then if you actually go to the list, of course, and you do you actually do some sorting, you'll find that there's plenty of titles that cost more than $20 and have a rating of 80% or more. And so for some reason, it's actually not getting the data somehow in its context window. So there's something wrong with the formatting, I believe, that makes it so that it doesn't really give you a whole lot of consistent answers. Now, in this case, it actually gave me titles that actually existed on my list, on my, inside of my spreadsheet, but it just did not give me like a specific, like the answers that I wanted. And in this case, basically what it did was it gave me video game titles, and then the last one was like another game that costs $57. So I think this is a formatting issue more than anything else. But the chat flow that I'm using is essentially I'm using a CSV file, right? A data loader, a document loader, just connected to a Chroma database. So inside of Flowise, you also have something called the CSV agent. And this is supposed to be better at, handling like CSV files and spreadsheets. And so I, went the extra distance and actually tested that one as well. And so I hooked it up to GPT-4, right? And so this is the chat flow. It's very, very simple. This is the ending node. And then if you actually check out the, and so in this case, I was actually using 3.5 Turbo because I was getting better answers actually for some reason. But I went ahead and tried CSV Agent, and what I was finding was I wanted to try to see if I could warm it up to see if it was actually accessing the data in the spreadsheet. So the first thing I asked it was how many rows are there. It came back with the right, 184 rows. And then I asked it what video game titles have a discount greater than 25%. And it gave me titles that were actually on my list, so that was good. And then I finally said, okay, I want to buy, games more than $20, rating higher than 80%. And this is actually a correct answer. This actually comes out to be $100, and it's actually on the list. And so it's working. It's just not always consistent. And so let me see. I think I tried it again. I wanted to be more specific with the prompt. And so it came up with a shopping list of titles that actually existed. So in this case, it actually got the answer right. But this is using 3.5, GPT 3.5. And then I asked it a question, if I bought every game on the list, and again, it's like 185 titles. I asked it how much would I pay. And so if you add up the titles here, you come up to $2,200 or $2,248. And so the answer I got was $2,675. So there's something going on there that I don't get. It's either it's making it up or it's calculating something else. I'm not sure. I don't think it's calculating the retail price because it would be a lot higher. So let's go ahead and check out Mistral Medium and see how it did with the same kinds of questions. So if we go to the beginning, same question, how many rows are in the document? It got that correct. Please give me some video game titles. Again, I was just warming it up. And so it gave me some video game titles, and there wasn't a whole lot more that it could really do. It really just started giving a lot more errors. So yeah, I think that's more an issue with the CSV agent and maybe the way that it formats the data. I was finding that even if I used a different type of CSV file, it would actually sometimes one type would work and the other type would not work. So there's a lot more work that needs to be done in terms of like making that connection between the data and the model. Making it in a format that the model can use. So this is Mistral. Let me know what you think about it. If you're already testing it and using it inside of your own applications. And in future videos, we're going to take an even closer look at Mistral and look at integrating it alongside Flowise inside of some applications. So with that, I'll see you in the next video.